Imagine a digital screen where red numbers are flashing everywhere, a chaotic dance of loss that most people find unbearable. In a single afternoon, $200,000, the fruit of a decade of hard labor, missed vacations, and disciplined saving, has vanished into the void of market volatility. For the average person, this is the start of a psychological collapse, a moment of profound identity crisis where their self-worth disappears along with their net worth. However, for the dedicated student of a Stoic investment strategy, this event is not a tragedy to be mourned, but a neutral data point to be observed. The fundamental problem we face in the modern financial world is not a lack of opportunity or even a lack of capital, but a severe lack of financial control over our own emotional reactions. We have been conditioned by a consumerist society to believe that our value as human beings is tied directly to the balance of our bank accounts. And when that balance dips, our very sense of safety fractures. This content is designed to solve that specific dilemma: how to build a wealth mindset that remains completely untouched by the chaos of the external world. We are going to explore how a person can lose a fortune and yet maintain a level of tranquility that the richest person in the world would envy. This is not about being cold, unfeeling, or indifferent to the reality of money. It is about a fundamental shift in how you perceive ownership, possession, and loss. If you truly seek to master your money, you must first master the mind that manages it, ensuring that your internal state is never held hostage by an Excel spreadsheet or a fluctuating stock ticker. Within the next 20 minutes, we will deconstruct the mental architecture required to stand firm while the markets crumble around you, transforming your relationship with capital from one of desperate attachment to one of rational stewardship. To understand this level of peace, we must look back at a story of immense tension and loss from the ancient world that perfectly mirrors our modern financial anxieties. Consider the life of a merchant named Zeno, who lived long before glowing screens and high-frequency trading, but who dealt with the ultimate high-stakes investment of his time, Tyrian purple dye. In the ancient Mediterranean, this dye was the gold of the world, a luxury product so rare and expensive that a single successful shipment could make a man a king, while a single disaster could leave him a beggar. Zeno invested every drachma he owned into a massive merchant ship, focusing all his energy on capital preservation and the hope of massive expansion. But the sea does not care about your business plan, your dreams, or your years of hard work. In the middle of the voyage, a violent storm struck, and the ship went down, dragging Zeno's entire fortune to the bottom of the sea. Modern historians estimate that the value of such a cargo would easily exceed $200,000 in today's purchasing power. Imagine the absolute silence that follows such a catastrophic loss, where there are no notifications or emails, just the sound of waves hitting a lonely shore where you have nothing left. Stranded in Athens, a city where he was a total stranger with empty pockets, Zeno faced the ultimate test of emotional discipline. Most men in his position would have surrendered to total despair, spending their remaining days bitter and broken, blaming the gods, the weather, or the incompetence of the captain for their ruin. They would have seen this market volatility as a personal curse, a sign that the universe was against them. They would have allowed the external loss to dictate their internal worth, falling into a spiral of regret that leads only to a wasted life. But Zeno chose a different path. He walked into a bookstore, began to study philosophy, and eventually founded the school of Stoicism, later remarking that fortune had actually done him a favor by driving him toward wisdom. You have likely felt this same crushing anxiety when looking at your own bank account during a downturn. Perhaps it was not a literal shipwreck, but a bad trade, a sudden medical bill, or the slow, painful erosion of your life savings due to inflation. That knot in your stomach, the fear that you are no longer safe because the numbers have changed, is a universal human conflict that Zeno's story helps us resolve. We spend our entire lives building walls of gold, only to realize that the wind can blow them down at any moment. And the tension lies in our desperate need for certainty in an inherently uncertain financial system. We must realize that the ship has already sailed, and the storm is already brewing. The only variable left is how we stand upon the shore. To resolve this tension and find the path to true security, we must turn to the core of Stoic principles as taught by thinkers like Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius. Epictetus, a man who was born into slavery and rose to become one of the most respected teachers of the ancient world, provided the exact framework we need for modern portfolio management. He taught the concept of the dichotomy of control, which is the ultimate foundation for long-term investing. In this view, there are things which are up to us and things which are not up to us. Your effort, your research, your decision to save every month, and your reaction to a sudden loss are entirely within your control. However, the direction of the market, the decisions of central banks, and the final value of your accounts on any given day are ultimately outside your control. To illustrate this, we use the mandatory analogy of the archer. Think of a Stoic investor as an archer preparing for a shot. The archer chooses the finest bow, feathers his arrows with meticulous care, and trains his muscles for years to achieve the perfect draw. He waits for the wind to die down and aims with total focus, representing his internal process of financial control. But the very moment the arrow leaves the string, it is no longer up to him. A bird might fly into its path, a sudden gust of wind might push it aside, or the target itself might move. The Stoic archer finds his satisfaction and his peace in the act of aiming correctly, not in the result of hitting the target. If the arrow misses despite his perfect aim, he remains at peace because he knows he did everything in his power. In the world of finance, if you conduct your due diligence and the market crashes regardless, you can sleep like a baby because you did not tie your happiness to a result you cannot command, but to the quality of your own choices. This is the secret to surviving a $200,000 loss, realizing that the money was a preferred indifferent, something that is better to have than not, but which is not essential for your character, your dignity, or your peace of mind. Seneca, who was one of the wealthiest men in Rome, used to practice poverty days, where he would eat only scraps and wear rough clothing to remind himself that losing his wealth would not destroy his soul. He would ask himself, is this the condition that I feared? By confronting the worst-case scenario voluntarily, he stripped it of its power. If you focus on your internal control, write indifferent in the comments. Understanding this philosophy is the only way to build a portfolio that can withstand both the bulls and the bears of the world. It is the realization that while you cannot control the wind, you can always adjust your sails. Applying this ancient wisdom to your modern bank account requires a practical framework for building wealth quietly, away from the noise of social media and the pressure to perform for others. This process begins with the Stoic budget, which is the most powerful tool you have for learning how to stop impulse spending. Most people build their budgets based on what they want to buy or what they think they deserve. A Stoic, however, budgets based strictly on what is necessary for a virtuous and simple life. Before every single purchase, you must ask yourself a difficult question. Is this a genuine need, or is it a desire born from a search for external validation? If you are buying a car or a watch primarily to impress people you don't even like, you are handing those people the keys to your happiness. By eliminating this ego spending, You create a massive surplus of capital that can be invested with a clear and focused mind. This is not about deprivation, but about prioritization. It is about recognizing that every dollar spent on a fleeting impulse is a dollar stolen from your future freedom. The second step is the pre-mortem of your investments, a practice known as premeditatio malorum. Before you put a single dollar into any asset, you must visualize that investment going to zero. You must vividly imagine the $200,000 loss before it ever happens. Feel the coldness of the loss, hear the silence of the empty account, and observe your own reaction in this mental simulation. If you cannot imagine being at peace with that outcome, then you are over-leveraged and taking risks that your character is not yet strong enough to handle. A Stoic never invests more than they can lose without losing their mind, ensuring that when volatility inevitably hits, their emotional discipline remains completely intact. Third, you must practice radical self-sufficiency by engaging in voluntary hardship. One weekend every month, choose to live as if you had already lost your wealth. Eat simple meals like beans and rice, walk instead of driving, and limit your entertainment to the basics of reading or nature. By doing this, you remove the paralyzing fear of the crash, because you have proven to yourself that you can survive and even flourish on very little. You realize that the good life is not expensive. It is the extravagant life that costs everything. Finally, you must adopt an objective evaluation of your assets. When you check your portfolio, look at the numbers as if they belonged to a stranger or were merely stones on a path. Remove the I and the my from the equation. Instead of saying, "I lost 10% today," simply state that the market value of these assets has fluctuated by 10%. This shift in language prevents your ego from becoming entangled with your assets, allowing you to act as a rational manager of capital rather than a victim of circumstance. As we go deeper into this framework, we must address the specific mechanics of capital preservation through a Stoic lens. In a world obsessed with growth at any cost, the Stoic focuses on the avoidance of ruin. We see wealth as a tool, not as a master. When you look at your investment strategy, are you chasing the highest possible return, or are you seeking the highest possible level of resilience? A resilient portfolio is one that recognizes its own limitations. It diversifies not just out of a desire for profit, but out of a humble admission that we do not know what the future holds. This humility is a core Stoic virtue. It prevents us from becoming arrogant during the bull markets and from becoming suicidal during the bear markets. We must also understand the concept of amor fati, the love of fate. This means not just tolerating the loss of $200,000, but embracing it as a necessary part of your journey. If the loss happened, then for the Stoic, it was meant to happen. It is a challenge to be met, a lesson to be learned, and an opportunity to prove that your soul is stronger than your bank balance. This shift from "why is this happening to me?" to "how can I use this?" is the ultimate pivot of the powerful mind. It is how you turn a financial catastrophe into a spiritual victory. Think of the great investors who lost everything only to rebuild with greater wisdom. They did not succeed because they were lucky. They succeeded because their internal foundation was unshakable. They knew that as long as they retained their faculty of reason and their discipline, they were never truly poor. They practiced the art of building wealth quietly, without the need for the world's applause, knowing that the most valuable asset one can own is a mind that is not for sale. This is the quiet confidence of the person who knows that even if the entire global economy were to collapse tomorrow, they would still possess the only thing that truly matters: their own character. They are the ones who understand that wealth is a responsibility to be managed with justice and temperance, not a trophy to be displayed. By adopting this perspective, you move beyond the reach of the financial influencers and the get-rich-quick schemes that plague our modern attention. You enter a state of long-term thinking that spans decades, not days. You become the silent architect of your own financial freedom, building a fortress of peace that no market crash can ever breach. This architecture of peace is not built in a day. It is constructed through thousands of small, daily decisions. It is built every time you choose to save instead of spend. It is built every time you choose to read a book on philosophy instead of checking the latest market rumors. It is built every time you look at a loss and refuse to let it ruin your dinner. We must understand that the market is a mirror. It reflects our own fears, our own greed, and our own lack of discipline. When the market crashes, it is not the numbers that are failing. It is our expectations that are failing. We expected a straight line to heaven, but nature only moves in cycles. The Stoic understands these cycles. They know that spring always follows winter, and that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, but the second best time is right now. They do not wait for the perfect time to invest because they know that perfection is an illusion. Instead, they focus on consistency. They focus on the process. They focus on being the type of person who is worthy of wealth. If you look at the most successful long-term investors in history, they all share a common trait, a temperament that is detached from the day-to-day noise. They are not smarter than everyone else. They are simply more disciplined. They have mastered the art of being bored while their money grows through the power of compounding. They have mastered the art of being calm while others are panicking. This is the essence of emotional discipline. It is the ability to hold a thought without being consumed by it. It is the ability to feel fear and still act with reason. When you lose $200,000, your brain will scream at you to do something, to sell, to hedge, to cry. The Stoic listens to the scream, acknowledges it, and then returns to their plan. They know that the plan was made with a rational mind, while the scream is coming from an irrational heart. By sticking to the plan, they honor their own reason. They prove that they are the captain of their soul. Furthermore, we must reconsider what we call security. In the modern world, we think security is a big bank account, a locked door, and an insurance policy. But these are all external. They can all be taken away. A bank can fail. A lock can be picked. An insurance company can go bankrupt. True security is internal. It is the knowledge that you have the skills, the character, and the resilience to survive anything that life throws at you. If you were stripped of everything you own today, your house, your car, your investments, could you still be happy? If the answer is no, then you are not free. You are a hostage to your possessions. The man who lost $200,000 and slept like a baby was free because he knew that his happiness did not depend on that money. He knew that he had already lived through the worst and was still standing. He knew that he was a survivor. This is why voluntary hardship is so important. It is the training ground for freedom. By sleeping on the floor once a week or eating only basic food, you are proving to your subconscious that you do not need the luxuries to be okay. You are breaking the power of the ego spending. You are becoming a person who is dangerous to the system because you cannot be bought and you cannot be scared. This is the ultimate goal of Stoic principles applied to finance. It is to create a person who is so self-sufficient that they can engage with the market as a player, not as a victim. They can enjoy the gains when they come, but they are not devastated when they go. They treat money like a tool, like a hammer or a saw. You use it to build something, but you don't fall in love with it. You don't let it define who you are. This level of detachment is what allows for the most rational portfolio management. It allows you to see opportunities where others see disasters. It allows you to stay the course when everyone else is jumping overboard. It is the quiet power of the mentor. Let us also discuss the concept of time in the eyes of a Stoic. Most people view time as an enemy, something that is running out, something they must use to get rich as fast as possible. This leads to high-risk behavior, to chasing moonshots, and to the anxiety of fear of missing out. But the Stoic views time as an ally. They understand the power of compounding, not just in money, but in character. They know that a small improvement in discipline every day leads to massive results over a lifetime. They are not in a rush because they are not trying to get to a destination. They are simply living a life of virtue in the present moment. This long-term perspective is what makes long-term investing possible. It is the ability to look past the next quarter, or even the next year, and focus on the next decade. It is the ability to plant seeds today that you will not eat the fruit of for many years. This is a rare quality in our modern world of instant gratification. Everything around us is designed to make us focus on the now of the notification, the now of the breaking news, the now of the sale. But the Stoic lives in a different now. They live in the now of their own actions. They focus on the quality of their aim, like the archer we discussed earlier. They know that if they focus on the process, the results will take care of themselves. This is how you build a wealth mindset. You stop worrying about the score and start focusing on the game. You stop worrying about the balance and start focusing on the habits. You realize that wealth is simply the byproduct of a life well lived. It is the natural result of discipline, patience, and reason. When you lose money, you haven't lost the game. You've just had a setback in the score. The game continues. Your ability to play continues. Your character remains. As we move toward the conclusion of our journey together, we must face the reality of the world we live in. The system wants you poor. Stoicism makes you free. It wants you to be a consumer, a debtor, a reactor. It wants you to be afraid of the future and regretful of the past. It wants you to believe that the only way to be happy is to buy more, do more, and be more. But the Stoic knows that the only way to be happy is to be enough, to have enough, to be content with what is within your control. This is the ultimate rebellion. To be a person who is satisfied with a simple life and a disciplined mind is to be a person that the system cannot control. Stoicism makes you free because it gives you back the power over your own internal state. It takes the power away from the market, away from the headlines, and away from the opinions of others, and places it firmly back in your own hands. The man who lost $200,000 and slept like a baby did so because he was a rebel. He refused to follow the script that society had written for him. He refused to be devastated by a loss that he could not prevent. He chose to find the silver lining, to see the shipwreck as a path to philosophy. This is the challenge I leave you with today. Will you be a victim of your finances, or will you be their master? Will you let the red numbers dictate your mood, or will you remain the same person regardless of what the screen says? Remember that your life is a series of moments, and each moment is an opportunity to practice virtue. Every financial challenge is a chance to prove that your soul is stronger than your bank balance. Do not let the pursuit of gold lead you to the bankruptcy of your spirit. Strive to be the person who is rich in wisdom, rich in character, and rich in peace. Everything else is just a preferred indifferent. True wealth is the distance between your desires and your needs. If you require millions to feel secure, you are poorer than the man who has nothing but is content. The system wants you poor. Stoicism makes you free. The man who lost $200,000 and slept like a baby did so because he understood a profound truth that most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid. You never truly own that money to begin with. You were merely its temporary steward, a guest in the house of fortune. When the money left, it simply returned to the source from which it came. What remains is your character, your wisdom, and your unwavering ability to start again from zero if necessary. This is the true meaning of financial freedom. It is not the ability to buy anything you want. It is the ability to not want anything that you do not have. As you move forward from this video, remember that every market dip is not a disaster, but a golden opportunity to practice virtue and test your wealth mindset. Do not be the person who is rich in gold but bankrupt in peace. Instead, strive to be the person who is so secure in their internal world that the fluctuations of the external world cannot even scratch the surface of their tranquility. Master your finances by first mastering your mind. Subscribe to Money and Stoicism to master your finances and your mind. Like this video if you seek true freedom. The path to wealth is quiet, it is disciplined, and above all, it is internal. Start walking it today.